affected voters out there on the left, which I think has been synthesised, brought together in particular this last week by the trans decision and by the way that Keir Starmer reacted to it. On that subject, in fact, I think we have a call now from Katie, who's in Leicester. Katie, morning.
Hi, Lewis. Thanks very much for speaking to me.
Of course, no problem at all. You've got something to say about this question about the Supreme Court judgment, is that right?
I have, yeah. I'm a transgender woman. I've been in transition for 7.5 years.
Wow.
I lived as a man for 48 years. I tried to be that man that society wanted me to be, but I just couldn't do it anymore. And in order to be happy, I had to transition. Yes. And now...
Which I imagine you did not do lightly.
Oh, nobody chooses to be trans. The only choice you have is whether you want to be happy or not. And for many people, it's a life or death situation. It's awful. It's horrendous. And the thing is, this is being made worse because now we're social pariahs now. It's awful.
You feel like a social pariah?
Oh, totally and utterly. This last week and a half, I mean, I've been crying a lot, and I'm actually one of the more resilient trans people. I mean, I do trans awareness training and inspirational speaking, so I'm out there and very, very publicly trans. But lots of my friends, they're too frightened to leave the house now. That shouldn't be the case.
They're too frightened to leave the house.
Yes, they are, and I know I know of at least 6 people who attempted to take their own life from this.
Since the Supreme Court decision?
Yes, 6 people. I visited one, a transgender lady who was 74 years old in hospital in Leicester Royal Infirmary last week, and she transitioned when she was in her mid-30s, and she'd been totally accepted. She's got a gender recognition certificate, had all the operations and everything, totally accepted as female, and she just couldn't take it anymore. That is how bad it is. And I know of 4 trans children who have attempted it as well. And these are just people I know.
And that's because, and Katie, just explain to people, because I don't think we've heard this voice very much, these sort of voices very much. Explain to people, and what was it about the Supreme Court judgment? Because there will be some people who say, right, this was about the Equality Act and it was about how services should be provided and so on. And they say that it doesn't, and in fact they absolutely say this, they say explicitly that it does not remove or take away the rights for trans people.
It doesn't, and this is the thing, it's been misinterpreted and misreported in the media and also in Parliament. I mean, Bridget Phillipson, the so-called Equalities Minister, again pushed that misinformation, and also the EHRC did as well. But we know that they're systemically transphobic. So they've been doing that as well. So all it does is it's about discrimination. So it was about trans women being included on women's only boards.
Yes, that's how it started.
So that was basically what it was about. But it's been misinterpreted by trans hostile people, and now. The misinformation has gone out there to say that it's about stopping trans women from using female lewis. There is no law that says that. There is no law.
Well, except, Katie, what's happened is, and you'll have heard me asking Pat McFadden about this, the EHRC have issued new guidance to say that trans women should not use women's only spaces, facilities, including toilets, although they do say that spaces should be provided for trans men and for trans women.
So segregation then. So it's back into the days. Do you remember the days, with all the blatant racism where you had gents, you had ladies, and then a sign on the door saying coloureds?
Well, I suppose obviously the logic for it has obviously been, firstly under the Equality Act, but the logic for it has been to say that women's spaces must be protected, and women inside them should be protected from sexual violence and so on. But let me just finish the point, Kate. I mean, from that has been the logic for it. But of course, the corollary of it is now, as I put to Pat McFadden, that trans women and trans men should now use the toilets, which is no longer the gender that they live under, which means that for crude terms, put it this way, very masculine men will be, who appear for all intents and purposes to be men, will be using women's toilets.
Absolutely.
What will you do?
I will carry on using women's loos exactly as I have done. There's no law against it. I would be put in danger if I was to use the gents' loos. And also, I'm not a danger to anybody. I just want a wee in safety, just as everybody else does. And also, the other thing is that what this action has done, and the way that's been interpreted and pushed out in the media, is that all it's going to do is it's going to make women's spaces more dangerous for women, for all women, not just trans women, for cisgender women, so non-trans women, because there are very many women who have got a much more masculine appearance.
What did you think when you heard the Prime Minister say this week that, and Number 10 say this week, that as far as the Prime Minister was concerned, that a woman is a woman because someone who is biologically born female?
Well, there's no definition of nobody's biologically born female. You're assigned that at birth, and there are lots of different things that determine.
Well, yes, you have chromosomally.
That you're given a. Yeah, but it's more than just chromosomes. It's far more than just chromosomes. It's not, because what about intersex people? And that's something else they got wrong in this ruling. They said that sex is binary. It's not. 1.7% of the population are intersex. So what about them? They've ignored them. It's biologically wrong. And the thing is, what's going to happen? This is going to happen.
The Prime Minister, of course, said previously that actually he had a very different view about what a woman was and in terms of what trans people are and were. Do you think he's let you down?
Totally and utterly. And as a trans person, I have to view my politics through survival and basically vote for. I'm ashamed to say it, but I'm still actually a Labour member. I won't be voting for Labour though in the up and coming local elections in my area. I can't. I just simply can't. And Labour, and particularly Keir Starmer, Wes Streeting and Bridget Phillipson have turned their backs on trans people. They've thrown us under the bus. They've shown us that they're trans hostile. And I just cannot bring myself to vote for them. I really can't. And what's this going to do is it's going to stir up hatred, and it's going to empower vigilantes to hang around outside women's loos and confront any woman accessing those loos who have a more masculine appearance. Now, if you look at those women who were popping champagne corks on the steps of the Supreme Court last week, a lot of them have got a more masculine appearance, and I wouldn't mind betting that they'll be some of the first people who will be challenged when they use the ladies' loos. And I think they've shot themselves in the foot, frankly.
Katie in Leicester there, trans person who has a very different view from that which we've heard perhaps a lot of over the course of the last week. We're going to be talking more about the local